Hi everyone, it's Rax. Continuing an avalanche of videos that are going to help you in Diablo 4 Season 2. This one is going to be very important for you for the end game. As always, this information is in my magical sheet. I will put a link to it in the video. You don't have to take any notes. If you've been here before, you pretty much already know how it works. Uh, probably know exactly what I'm going to show you. But there are some specific things about this data that I want to explain to you. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to redo all of it after the season starts, and I'd like to explain why. So first of all, ran through the data, and I can't actually test this stuff. This is for a lot of reasons. First of all, there's no PTR. So I'm not running a nightmare dungeon, I'm running the regular dungeon. So that's assuming that the regular dungeon scales to the nightmare dungeon equally. It usually does. Historically, this is usually a pretty safe assumption, but this doesn't always happen. That's one assumption. The next thing is Blizzard said in their patch notes that they're doing a revamp of the dungeons, and they're changing the layouts to make them much more linear. At this point, I've gotten pretty efficient at deleting their non-linear or convoluted dungeons, so this shouldn't impact it too much. But if they dramatically change the layout and it's much easier to run some of the complicated dungeons, some of the bad ones could move up. Another thing is Blizzard is constantly changing the density, usually buffing it. I don't know if Blizzard's watching this video, but it seems like in the past, sometimes they peek at what I'm doing and I say, this thing sucks. Can you believe how bad this thing is? Then 1 week later, the density is doubled. And I'm like, how exactly did I think this was so bad? And then I compare the footage. I'm like, it's not even close. They doubled the density. So there may be density changes that I haven't seen. Another very important thing is Blizzard said that they're going to, if not completely remove, dramatically tone down all the objectives that you have to do. Remember freeing 7 prisoners and the videos that we made about Blizzard stop slowing us down? This is their way of doing that. So, needless to say, me running the regular dungeons, not as the Nightmare Dungeon, without the layout changes, unknown what density changes they're going to make, with the objective still in, is not exactly what we will be experiencing on live. However, with all those assumptions in mind, I try to delete them as efficiently as possible, should scale decently well, and I actually did something tricky. If I got a dumb dungeon with like free 7 prisoners, I would just clear the dungeon to the boss, pause the timer, then I'd just go free all the prisoners. I'd walk back to where I was, start the timer, and kill the boss. That's like timing a dungeon without the prisoners. So I did have ways to manipulate it to try to simulate what we're doing. But I wanted to draw attention to this data is not going to be perfect. I will rerun the data because I hate myself. I'll do it next week for you guys just to make sure that we have it right. But before I even started, I already know that apparently the way to say this is Scirocco or Scirocco. Chat was educating me. It's actually with an H, Scirocco Caverns. This is the best. I already knew this was going to be the best before, because the first thing I look at when I look at all the names is, do I remember this dungeon? Because if I remember it, it was from the early days of speed running, and they're usually still the best. So no surprise at all that Scirocco won. I said they were going to win before we even started. It was true. I was very surprised that the Flooded Depths, this is the one locked behind that, it's locked behind the Hope's Light Stronghold in the top left corner of the map. In my leveling guide, I call out over here that before you go to World Tier 3, you should go clear this. You should go clear this stronghold. That's because this dungeon is godly. If you don't clear it, then when you get this key, you can't plug it and you're going to be sad. You don't want to clear the stronghold in World Tier 4 because that's a waste of your time. That's where you could have been doing nightmare dungeons. You'd rather do it in like World Tier 1 when you're a baby with a stick, um, you know, in order to be efficient with it. So you want to do that at the beginning. There is another dungeon locked behind a, I think it's locked behind Altar of Ruin. It's this one, the Sepulture of the Forsworn. As you can see, this dungeon sucks. So I don't plan to run this key anyway. There's no reason to run it unless you need the Codex power. So you don't have to clear the Altar of Ruin to unlock this. But if you're wondering, why can't I plug this key? That's why, and go clear the Altar of Ruin. But yeah, other than that, the main way to use this tier list, or the way that I use it anyway, is I just look at the bottom. Okay, Look at the bottom, and all of these essentially like midway through C and below, I just avoid them. I try to salvage them for dust and I try to recraft one of these things. Another thing to keep in mind is for this season, Blizzard has fixed a lot of the affixes. They had the data on which affixes are people either skipping or which ones are just killing people or which ones are people crying about the most. And they, I guess the best way to say it is they nerfed them. So they kind of normalized all of the affixes. So you shouldn't have to be skipping too many affixes, or at least as many of the ones that you were skipping in season one. So hopefully it's a lot more focused on trying to all the run the S's, A's, and B's and salvaging the C's and the D's. And then if you run these, I mean, this is worth 2.04 and this is worth 0.83. So it's almost 3 times better to run this dungeon one time than this dungeon. Okay. Now, this is actually going to be a lot more important than in the past because the XP to 100 has been increased by 40%, but the glyph XP has only been increased by 19%. And glyph XP was actually already just barely keeping up with XP. And they're heavily enticing you to do a ton of different events that are not Nightmare Dungeons. Helltide has been buffed, world bosses have been buffed. The entire seasonal theme is outdoors. Grim Favors are buffed. Whispers are buffed. Legion events are buffed. Everything outside of Legion or outside of Nightmare Dungeons, they're trying to convince you to do that. So your glyph XP is going to be rough. So if you're trying to level them quickly, you might want to follow this tier list instead because these are the ones that I could delete the fastest. Again, the numbers might change based upon, all the factors we mentioned before. I'll redo the list to make sure, but this for day 1 through 3, this is probably the best list that we're going to get. Okay? Ooh, all right. Well, the Nightmare Dungeon tier list. I have so many more videos to make. We made the leveling guide. We made the Nightmare Dungeon tier list. A lot of people have been asking about the math. What does it all mean, Rax? Crit, vuln, multipliers, additive. My head just exploded. I don't like math. Why in the world we do? I'm going to make a video explaining it in very, very plain English. Short video, plain English. Hopefully it will help you understand and help you get some ideas of how to itemize, have a top builds thing. Lots of things are coming. There's one final thing I'd like to share with all of my friends in the United States, if you wouldn't mind sticking around for a few more seconds. And people from around the world actually might get a kick out of this as well. One sponsor that I've had for a long time is GNC, General Nutrition Company. I think they're world number one for nutrition stuff. They're major in the United States. They're expanding globally. They have a very interesting new offer for people in the United States regarding healthcare, actually. This actually helps me, and some other people around the world are probably laughing at us, rightfully so. So what they're offering is with GNC Pro, which some of you guys have, some of you are already big GNC people, which already gives you like cash back and free shipping and like a free protein bar or drink every day, but not every day, every month. They're actually offering with GNC Pro, which is $40 a year only. There's virtual urgent care, virtual primary care, and free prescriptions. They've got like a list of 100 free prescriptions that you can order. In the event that the prescription that you don't have that you need is not on the list, they'll give you a pharmacy card, which will help supplement whatever cost you have for it. And actually, for people like me that don't work for an employer that offers health insurance, well, my choices are pretty limited. I could just pay out of pocket or go through the Affordable Care Act or get this. And this for $40 a year is pretty tremendous value. I'm sure some people out there might actually look into this, and now GNC has given me this, and it's pretty godly actually. So they have this site, GNC Health. You should read all about it. There's a lot of info here, but GNC has been very good to me. It's been a sponsor for me for a long time, well before Diablo 4 came out. So these guys are my friends. So when this came out, I was like, yeah, I'll give you guys a shout out for sure. So if this sounds like something that would help you, look into it. And if everybody from not in the United States says, I have free healthcare, you guys suck, man, you've got a point. Anyway, that's the tier list, guys. Many more videos are coming. Thank you, GNC. Not even for that. Just thanks for being a good sponsor. And more videos are coming. See you in the next one. Thank you.